If there's a specific question that you would like to answer, put your name down. You can also add on to people's, answers, by the way. That's always an option. Yeah, we'll try to, hopefully they ask us a lot of questions.
Yeah. If not, we'll bore them with the details of how we wrote our problems.
Oh, I see it. You actually see it.
Oh, you see it? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
not ask
I muted the YouTube, so it doesn't echo.
Oh yeah, that's good.
That's probably smart. Here. Richard, go to try going to to another tab.
Like.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to check if you can only see the Zoom.
Yeah, you can only see the Zoom.
Okay.
I have all my
I've just checked YouTube and it works.
Wait,
say that again. I can. All right. Oh, hi Kira, hi Amy. We're just getting started. We're gonna keep track of the questions that we receive here.
So have we started exactly how exactly is this going to work? Isn't this going to be on YouTube or something?
Mm-hmm.
The recording has already started. I can see it on YouTube.
Alright, cool.
I guess we can start then. Hello everyone watching from YouTube. Congrats so much on finishing the LMT. Those are some insanely hard problems. If we were middle schoolers, we probably couldn't do them. But you guys keep impressing us every year. So yeah, we're at the student panel right now. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. If we don't get any questions, we'll probably just bore you with the details of how we wrote all the problems, if you guys are curious about that. But yeah, just feel free to put any questions there, and we'll be happy to answer them. Really anything you want. It doesn't have to be math. It could be if you're curious about high school and you're an 8th grader or something, and you want to know what being in high school is like. Some of us might have been in COVID during the whole time we were in high school so far, so I don't know how well we would be able to answer that, but yeah, really whatever you guys want to know. Okay, if not, let's go to the questions then. Does somebody want to explain some of the questions they wrote, or how they made them, while we're waiting for people to ask some questions?
I guess I'll explain one of mine. Can I explain it?
Of course.
Okay, so let's I'll just pick a random number, which just how about it guts 33, or should I choose another one?
Uh-oh, we're going directly to the very hard ones. Let's start with something a bit more mild.
Okay, something a bit more mild would be T number 1.
Yes, that sounds about.
Okay, so for Division A Problem 1, the question statement can be found here. Let me just share my screen. So triangle LMT has MA as an altitude. Given that MA is 16, MT is 20, and LT is 25, find the length of the altitude from L to MT. So for this problem, I just decided to experiment with the similarity because we needed a pretty simple geometry problem to begin with. So I just like put in some numbers that wouldn't make like the integer answer really obvious, yet like kept the problem pretty simple with just similar triangles. And I just put LMT and MA as like kind of flavor for this problem.
Yes, and we also designed the first two problems to read 2021. So
Yeah.
we thought it was funny. We're not sure if you guys think it's funny. But number two, I wrote originally. I think the answer was 2, but we changed it to be 21, so that way the first two questions were 2021.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that like in the beginning, f of 0 was -1 over 2021.
Yeah, something like that.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
think the same thing happened actually on the B as well. There was a different number 1, but on the B it should have been read 2020 as well.
hmm Okay. I guess I'll give someone else a chance to explain one of their problems, unless we have questions.
No questions yet, I don't think. We can keep going with the problems.
Wait, would it be helpful for us to just like start off with introducing ourselves?
Oh, that's probably true, yeah. I always forget to do that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Oh,
let's just
me?
do like
Or like what kind of order would you want?
mm, anything's fine.
Let us
Maybe
go.
the captains go first.
Okay.
All right. So, hi, my name is Yuhan Kim. I'm one of the 4 captains of Lexington High School math team. I'm a senior. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Richard, do you want to go next?
Of course. Hi, I'm Richard. I'm also a senior, and I'm also one of the captains this year for the LHS math team. It's been pretty fun, even though we're kind of like remote all the time.
I think Taiki should go next.
Wait, can you hear me? Okay, so hi, I'm Taiki. I'm a senior, and I really like writing problems, and I had fun writing problems for LMT.
How about the juniors go next? So,
Okay, hi, I'm Kevin, and like and I also like help write problems for LMT. So yeah, um, sophomores.
All right, I can go. I'm Kira Tang, and I'm a sophomore. And I helped write a few problems as well as do the puzzle hunt, like mini event stuff, which was fun.
All right. I'm Brian. I also am a sophomore, and I wrote a few problems, mainly for bus. And I also did the math pool.
My name is Ephraim Chun. I'm a sophomore, and I also um and I helped out at many events.
I think it's the freshman's turn, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Ada. I'm a freshman. I wrote some problems too, mostly the easier ones. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I blog in my free time.
You can go.
Okay. Do you want to go? Right, I guess I'll go. I'm Steven. I'm a freshman. I wrote a few problems for the team run, I think.
I'm Emmy. I didn't actually write any problems, but I did so many events, yeah.
Okay. If we're not gonna have any questions, let's see. I'm gonna ask you guys a question. What question do I ask?
Well, I think I can ask a question. Well, when you guys all, maybe you guys didn't, but maybe you guys did math in middle school. How did you find the transition, like from middle school math, like middle school math competitions to high school math competitions? Was it hard? Was it difficult? Was it easy? And if it was difficult, how did you get over it? And what adjustments did you have to make? Yeah, Steven, go ahead.
Um, I did some math in middle school, mainly in eighth grade, and I don't know if it's because of like COVID or anything, but I found that uh, high school math is a lot less competitive, so I actually found it easier here than back in middle school.
I mean, like, when I like transferred from middle school to high school, like we weren't in like a pandemic, and like so at the end of middle school, I kind of thought like it was kind of sad that I was leaving like the middle school competitions, but like at that point in time, I didn't really know the fun of high school math competitions until like I experienced ninth grade and like went to all kinds of competitions at various colleges. Trust me, high school competitions are like also really fun.
I also competed in middle school math, and one of the things that I would say was quite different is that um, like at high school math competitions, you get to like meet new people, and well, at middle school, you don't really get to do that as often, and I thought in high school you get to meet a lot of new people at the various places that you get to go to.
Yeah, well, Ephraim and I are in the same grade, and I guess we sort of had similar experiences, like the difference between middle school and high school. I'd say definitely like what Steven said, that middle school, I think like short term, it's more competitive, as in, like, oh, like maybe you're practicing a lot for math counts, or you're like, oh, there's this specific date coming up, and like chapters, states, and then like the national stuff. And so, but I think that in high school, math team sort of becomes more of a focus on really understanding the concepts rather than doing things fast. And for me, I felt like it was definitely something that took some getting used to. And I feel like I'm still sort of developing these different skills as well. And yeah, I think that if you're into like proofs and also longer sort of things where you think more for a longer period of time on one problem, then you'll definitely enjoy high school math team.
Yeah, I'm also in the same grade, and I had a lot of similar experiences. Lexington math team is definitely more collaborative than like Diamond and Clark math teams and stuff. So that's nice.
I just wanted to add on to Kira's point. Like a lot of middle school math is like a lot of problems, not much time. Um, High school is a lot less of that. So if you like spending a lot more time on a problem, or like just like starting out with an idea and then kind of expanding it and like just playing around with it at home or something, um, then I would say that's a lot more of what high school math does. Um, Also, like for high school math, I feel like a lot of times from problem one, it's really exciting and challenging. Sometimes like in middle school, there might be a few problems that are a bit like quicker to do, but like usually from high school, it gets interesting from right from the start, which is pretty cool. Oh, we have a question in the chat. Somebody's asking how hard was it to organize this tournament? So I guess you guys can talk about like maybe the most difficult parts of organizing the tournament, what you found enjoyable about it, how the process went for you.
Organizing it wasn't like really hard. It was just like writing a lot of problems and then like compiling them onto the test. I would say that the hardest part is like proofreading and making sure like problems are correct. Like shout out to Taiki here for like organizing the entire test too.
Mhm.
He's done a lot for the math team.
Yeah, I think there are more barriers to communicating with the pandemic, so it was a bit harder to like vet problems and stuff, but it was still fine.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Brian on that part. I think so. I wrote like a few problems, but then I was mostly sort of doing stuff for the puzzle hunt and like scavenger stuff, I guess. But I think definitely that communication barrier because we're not sort of in practice together like in person and where we would organize these things. Um, Definitely like there are some times where I was like, wait, did somebody already do this yet? And then like I have to ask, oh, did somebody do it already? And then it's definitely feels like it's like less convenient in that way. But I think a lot of the stuff that we did compiling since we weren't writing the questions that we were like problem writing, like on paper, we were still typing it up. That it was still not that huge of a transition because we still used some of the same stuff, like overleaf and all those things.
So I didn't really handle a lot of the logistical stuff. Purely speaking from a problem writing perspective, probably the hardest part is you get an idea and the idea is easy, but finding a way to make it like to create enough restrictions that there's only one answer, but like not too many that the answer is obvious is difficult. And also sometimes writing solutions are difficult because when you first create a problem, you have this like intuitive idea, but when you write a solution, you really want someone who doesn't have this intuitive idea to understand how they would solve this problem. So sometimes writing a solution can be the most difficult part.
I think speaking from like organizing the whole tournament, probably the hardest part was making sure like all the emails get sent out. I know Richard did a really great job of responding to all the emails, sending out all the Zoom links as well. I remember from fall, we had some problems with like getting emails from the participants. And also, like sometimes we run into like troubles. For example, today, the guts round. So we thought we had everything set up, but apparently some things weren't working and we had to quickly fix that. So those like abrupt abrupt problems that we face, those are the hardest, I would say.
Another thing we feel like we never get exactly right is like difficulty. So usually at the beginning we're like, oh no, we don't have enough difficult problems, guys. Go write some hard problems, and then we get a bunch of hard problems. Credit to like a lot of you guys, like Kevin, for writing a lot of those. And then we're like, oh wait, we don't have enough easy problems, and then we write a bunch of easy problems, but then we're not sure again. So like we never know because it's been a while since we were in middle school, so we kind of don't remember what it was like being in middle school sometimes. So sometimes if we try to do the difficulty, it's a bit off. So sorry if that happened for you guys, but we're trying our best. We're trying to, I don't know, go back and forth and see if we can get like kind of that sweet spot where we have something for everyone to solve. Oh, I see a question in the chat. Does anyone have a favorite question from the tournament or no?
All right. Well, my favorite question was one that I wrote. All right. I guess it was the best round 15 one, and I'm not gonna go find it right now because it'll take time, but you can look at it later. But basically, it does take some ideas from like computing, which is definitely computer science is definitely kind of overlapping with math. So you can kind of use like computers to help you test problems and help like kind of structure the problems. So one of the things we did was we had a program made. I'm pretty sure Powell made that, and basically we could use it to solve the problem, and we could use techniques to solve the problem that would otherwise be extremely difficult to do by hand. And yeah, it also uses a lot of ideas from computer science, I guess, and like recursion and like programming ideas, if you've heard of that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure very few of you like that problem because I don't think many people got it. I don't think anyone got it actually, but anyways, I found it interesting at least.
So for me personally, I didn't solve like the majority of the problems, so I can't really say like pick a favorite because I haven't really seen a lot of them. But I liked a lot of the problems in the haiku section. I know a lot of people thought it was annoying to like comprehend them and stuff, but that was a really fun thing. I think I wrote one of them, so that was definitely a really fun problem to write for me, and it was a lot of fun to like just see the other problems, and it sort of added another like element to the problem solving. So I liked a lot of the haiku problems.
Yeah, I think it's a useful skill to read the whole problem and be able to get like exactly what it means from rather long explanation sometimes.
Oh, adding on to Ada's point, um, unfortunately or fortunately, we also wrote the solutions in haiku form. So have fun reading that. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I think like in terms of writing problems, like my favorite like problems that I wrote were like problems that like required like thinking, but like didn't weren't like contrived. Like the problem wasn't like forcing you to like think in like one specific way or something.
So I think on this test, my personal favorite problem would be mine about like my favorite problem out of the ones I wrote would be mine with the 25 balls and you remove some and you have to see if you can possibly turn it while keeping the same configuration. I thought that problem personally for me was interesting. I think my all-time favorite problem I've written is one that actually didn't make the test, so that I'm not going to say that one. But it's probably the cats and hexagon ones from last fall's guts. Um, I don't know. I just thought that was really a cool problem because it combines certain geometrical things with combinatorics.
Can I go next? So I wrote 3 problems, I think, that actually made it on the spring LMT. And I think my favorite might have been Team A Division number 11, because actually it was surprisingly hard given some of the feedback I received. But I liked that you could make like 30, 60, 90 right triangles. And okay, I guess I revealed part of the solution, but I think the use of that is pretty creative, and leading up to the like leading up to just using the angles to find some insight to, well, I feel like it's hard without seeing the problem itself, but well, it was just really um thought the geo was kind of cool. So yeah.
Oh, I have another question in chat. That's like a lot more general. I guess you guys can talk about kind of whatever aspect you want, but what is high school like compared to middle school?
Well, it's definitely more time consuming. Um, yeah, but it is good in that it's kind of structured in a way where you can have free blocks if you want. There's a lot more freedom in what classes you can choose. There are a lot of different classes that most people will never take. And you can more focus on one subject if you'd like. That's pretty nice, I guess.
Yeah, adding on to what Brian said, yeah, that definitely is true. Like, if you have a specific interest, you can take like electives for that. Um, I guess it's just that there's a very large catalog of classes that you can choose from, and I think what you need to remember, like when you're in high school, there might be like you might be afraid about like, oh, is going down a certain path going to be like what I'm going to do in the future? And honestly, just sort of, I think the mindset that is like a good mindset to have when choosing your courses in high school, with that freedom of choice, is just to explore your interests.
Yeah, adding on, I think you actually have a lot of opportunities to explore new, like, I guess, areas of interest. Like, for example, our high school, we have a ton of clubs. We have clubs that, for example, we have like anime club, we have the B club, we have math team, we have science school. It's just a lot of things you can actually try out once you get into high school. And I do recommend, as a freshman, I do recommend trying out a lot of new different clubs.
Yeah, I think a common theme is just like there's a lot more freedom, and there's a lot more like expectation for self advocacy. Like if you need to make up a test, your teacher isn't going to chase after you and ask about it. You have to email your teacher and ask about it. You have to keep an eye on your grades. Like you sort of like have to advocate for yourself a lot more.
Yeah, like there's a lot more responsibility, but also um it's not as like scary as middle school teachers say it is. Um it's definitely like you don't have like you're not gonna stay up until 1 in the morning doing homework. Um Also there's like a lot of good sports you can do. Yeah.
Also, I think your time management is very important when you get into high school, because you have a lot of things you have to do in your day, and um, depending on how you decide to divide up your time, can change like how you live your life in high school. Um, Also, like for example, like if you can like spend a lot of time on homework and then maybe have less time on extracurriculars. It's kind of like you need to find a balance between everything so that you get to do what you want to do, but you also finish what you have to do.
Yeah, some people try to do everything, and that's usually just not possible. You have to, like Ephraim said, find a balance.
Yeah, I think it also partially applies to grades. Like a lot of times like I'm not saying give up before you start, but a lot of times expecting A plus in every class is unrealistic. Like maybe you were able to do that in middle school, and I personally know people who were able to do that in middle school, but in high school it's a lot harder to get those grades, and sometimes like it's quite unrealistic to expect to do that and still do all your extracurriculars and get enough sleep and still have your mental health intact.
Adding up to what Ada just said, yeah, just like don't be too hard on yourself. A lot of times that's kind of what happens. Um, but as long as like you're trying your best, which is super cliche, but like there's really not much else you can do. Um, Try not to like get mad or angry or upset or whatever. Um, Usually like staying calm, talking it over with like your teachers if it's an issue with like grades or something or with classes. Usually it'll be okay. They're pretty happy to talk. A lot of the teachers are super nice and super understanding. Um, like the one that advises our club right now. I don't want to put them on the spot, but they're very nice and they are always willing to talk with you. So, I have another question for you guys. Where have you found a lot of the like friends you have right now? Like would it be at clubs during lunch, during classes, or like wherever online?
I actually think like in terms of school before COVID, like most of my friends were like from math team because we shared like common interests. Like in my opinion, like most of the classmates in the normal classes of mine were just people I chatted with on a regular basis, but I didn't really uh, get to know them really well, unlike in math team. Anyone else?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Kevin on the part that, you make a lot of friends based on your common interests in your clubs. But for me, I think that I found other groups of friends as well in my electives. Not so much, I'd say, in the more general classes, but definitely like electives, whether it's like art or music or those kinds of things. Basically, that the other students are in there because of also another shared interest. So, and yeah, I think that connecting on a shared interest is a good start, and maybe you'll find out new things about other people that maybe you thought were different from you too.
Yeah, adding on to Kira's point of like Kira and Kevin's point of shared interests, I think most of my closest friends are from my extracurricular activities like math team, music, or tennis. One of those. It really helps you. Well, first of all, you guys spend a lot of time together. Um, with other students in class, it's only like 40-45 minutes, but with math team, with like music, with tennis, you spend like what 2 hours together, and I think that's what really builds the friendship and the relationship.
Okay, well, we have some questions about problems, and I think Kevin wrote both of them. So,
Yeah, I wrote both of them. I guess I'll
yeah,
like. Okay, so for number 19, I just like wanted to like have some problem where you just like played around with the numbers and then just could factor it into something which would give you the solution nicely. And like in terms of number 20, like it had a lot of elements of Olympiad geometry. How useful is it in these days? Is it going out of favor? I don't know if Olympiad geometry is going out of favor, like other people say. I haven't even really heard that Olympiad geometry is going out of favor, so like perhaps it might be, but still, I think that these types of problems are really good for team rounds, and like they help a lot in like problem solving skills, and given that you have a whole entire week to solve these type of problems, I really like them because like there's like many steps to solving it, and it's not just a problem that you just spend a couple of minutes doing or something. It like requires like more like deeper thinking as of like people in high school, and yeah, you all are going to like high school in a couple of months, if not a couple of years. So like, I think like this problem's probably a good example of like a problem that you might be solving in high school. Oh yeah, also Olympiad geometry is like still useful, and it's not going. It's still like really popular and like often like, really interesting too. Okay, anyone else want to like put their inputs on their problems?
No, but I definitely agree with Kevin that Olympiad geometry is useful.
All right, looks like we have another question. So, where did you guys get the theme round ideas from? And does anyone want to answer that?
Oh yeah, I believe like for the haiku part, like one of our problem writers was just writing problems in haiku. So we were like, hey, why not make it a theme? So we just made it as a theme.
I think for card games there were a lot of problems just like written by a lot of different people about cards, and we sort of made that a theme too. And what was the other theme? I think the other theme
Chandler the
was
octopus.
Chandler the Octopus. I think that was a common theme in a lot of the problems too.
So they kind of came organically.
Yeah, basically. We'll get to the other geo question in a bit. But speaking of card games, so just for context, our math team does play a bunch of games together. A lot of card games, phone games, group games. So do you guys have any recommendations of games that are fun to play together that you would like to recommend to these middle schoolers that compete in LMT?
Yeah, Fish is a really fun game. Like, and we play it constantly on like math team trips everywhere. Like, but the unfortunate part of that is that like, you have to have a lot of memorizing and have really good memorization to do well on it. Like, my memorization has not always been the best, you know. And in addition to that, you always need at least four people. But in order to have a really fun game of Fish, six players are required. In fact, like nowadays we still play fish online sometimes.
Oh, also, if you guys are interested in Googling it, I think it would come up under Canadian fish if you want like a more specific term for it. I guess another game that I would recommend is Hanabi. I think there's an online way to play it. Um, I don't. It's more like you have to work together as a team. There's no like versus. It's more like a group of four people trying to finish something, and it requires like teamwork and sort of finding ways to clue each other in on things that maybe not. So each person doesn't have the full picture. So it's sort of like I don't know, teamwork and logic in that case.
This isn't exactly a card game, but I would also recommend Mafia, which is very similar. It's like Among Us basically, where you have like a couple of people who are like enemies that are trying to kill some people, and then there's like the remaining members who are trying to figure out who are the killers. So that's a fun game that usually makes people think a lot.
Yeah, I would second Ephraim on that one. Mafia is a lot of fun.
Well, so there's another question for one of Kevin's problems. So number 25 on cuts, I guess.
Guts number 25. You were supposed to just like for that one plug in the like special cases and get stuff out. Like for example, and because the sum of A, B, and C was 4, and each one of them is between 0 and 2 inclusive, you would test all the edge cases. Like you would test 0, 2, 2, like 1, 1, 2. 4/3, 4/3, 4/3, which is basically the case where one of them is equal, and the case where like two of them, like no, the case where all three of them are equal, and the case where two of them are equal.
I have a question. What are some like resources that you guys use to prepare or math or anything?
Oh, I would definitely go YouTube. There are like a lot of YouTube channels with people who put a lot of like effort and are incredibly good at like explaining stuff. Um, so usually I don't know so much as competition, maybe not as much, but for like a lot of other classes, if I get confused, YouTube is usually my go-to place. Um, there for some people that may like lead to them clicking on like the sidebar, like oh, there's this other video I want to click on, but usually if that's not a problem for you, then there are a lot of great people that are explaining stuff on YouTube.
I think for me, it was I usually use the books a lot. I started off with the AOPS books, and then I started with the Awesome Math books as well. But also another thing is if you have any like seniors or any upperclassmen that you can talk to, you should definitely ask them about like what resources that they use to study. Um, well, I guess this is a special case for me, but I had a upperclassman who was also Korean, So he gave me like Korean books that he used to study with. So yeah.
Yeah, and this definitely applies for high school in general as well as math.
I think sometimes like the difficulty of studying is not knowing exactly what to study. So there's a lot of like handouts floating around with like different formulas and stuff. So like don't like just look at the handout and memorize the formulas, but like go through it, and if there's a formula you don't recognize it, like Google things. Yeah.
I think in general you should just like have a schedule, because sometimes if you're disorganized, it's really hard to study randomly, and you want to like set a certain amount of stuff you want to do for the week or the day.
I guess this tip is like more specific to maybe competitions, but definitely if you know that you're going to a competition, try out their practice problems. This could also work for basically a lot of other classes. If you know that there are like practice questions or problems that you can use to check your understanding, definitely do that. Like the archives for competitions or like past handouts are out there for a reason. So, yeah, definitely look into those if you're trying to prepare for pretty much anything.
Yeah, adding on to Kara's point, I would argue that even if you're not going to a specific competition, trying out their problems is always worth it, especially for some like the bigger competitions, like the AMCs. Like if you're not specific, like even if you may not be doing like AMC 12, it's always worth it to go and do those problems because they're really good problems, just like in general.
Well, kind of adding on to that, if you are curious, we do have kind of archives for the LMT. So if you go to our website, like lhsmath.org/LMT, there will be a place where you can look at some of the past competitions. We don't have like too many similar ones to like this year because previously we had different formats, but we changed it for online. We'll probably go back to the original format after we are back in person. But yeah, those are some good problems.
This is not really math related, but and also please take this advice with a grain of salt. But if you want just like general knowledge about, if you're curious about anything, like Wikipedia actually has like a decent amount of information. Like you can't always trust it. I know, I understand, but like sometimes it actually can have like decently good information on there.
Yeah, like you can use it as a springboard. A lot of times they provide like really nice summaries and stuff of stuff, um and I find that like a lot of the political pages on Wikipedia get corrupted for certain reasons, but a lot of like the math pages don't because they're not political.
Yeah, middle school teachers tell you not to listen to Wikipedia. Don't trust them. A lot of high school teachers will just tell you to kind of use Wikipedia as like a starting point, like you said. And yeah, definitely when you're on a math Wikipedia page, people generally won't edit it because only people with expertise actually edit those.
Yeah, math and science are pretty safe, but I would not recommend citing Wikipedia as a source in your annotated bibliography for a history paper. Let's just say that.
Yes, I would um, fourth fourth that advice. I will say though, sometimes when you go on Wikipedia, some of the math articles get into like a lot of detail. So try not to get too engulfed in the details because sometimes they get like really into the nitty gritty details with like a lot of calculations and stuff. Um, Usually just reading like the first paragraph or so is fine. And then if you really get a bit confused with like what the expert mathematicians are saying, then probably find another source is the best way to go.
Yeah, there is a way to view a simple version of most articles. You can replace the en in the Wikipedia URL with simple. That'll give you the simple English Wikipedia, which is usually a bit simplified. But yeah, also if you want to get scholarly articles, or at least not just like random journals or well random like news media stuff, you could just go to Google Scholar. But make sure you use keywords like and good searching techniques, like just using keywords and stuff. Because it's a bit harder to find stuff there.
Oh, there is one question that we probably forgot to answer. Is there any advice that you would give to middle schoolers right now, like as they navigate through middle school? Maybe like there's some sixth graders watching or something, and they're just getting started with middle school.
I think a lot of people probably have said this, but it'll be a very big change from like elementary school to middle school and high school. It's definitely a very big shift in like what you're expected to do, like stuff like responsibilities and independence. But generally, the teachers, especially in Lexington, are always on your side, so you can ask them for stuff.
Yeah, unrelated, but I think a lot of people watching this live stream would probably be considered nerds in their school, and depending on where you live, that could be an unpopular thing. So just sort of like hang in there, you know. It's fine to be a nerd, and it's good to be a nerd. So just sort of hang in there. And sometimes people will be mean, and that's okay. Um, it will probably get better in high school because in middle school, in my personal opinion, a lot of times people just have too much time on their hands and like don't really know how to spend it. So, but in high school, everyone's like really busy. So like a lot of times, like the meanness will kind of stop a little bit.
I think middle school is actually a really good time to build your communication and self-advocacy skills. Um, Definitely like what Brian said about the teachers are being on your side. But earlier, we did talk about how we have to that the teacher's not going to chase after you for something. And I'd say that although it's very it's very true in high school, maybe as a middle schooler that you should start sort of thinking about how to write an email to a teacher or think about tone and just the teachers are there to help and all you have to do is ask. But sometimes asking is a big thing.
Yeah, that's really important. Like, email writing is extremely important. It's a very good habit, and you should always do it and be proactive. Like, talk to your teachers if there's something wrong, because they have to manage like 100 students sometimes, and if you write them an email, then they'll be able to get to you first out of all those. Yeah, in middle school, I never really looked at my email, but in high school, I monitored it like very often.
So to answer the question of like how many people help in writing the LMT, we, I mean, usually we have like at max 50 members in the math team, and each member like contributes some problems. There's obviously like people who contribute more problems than others. I know Kevin writes like all the all the hard problems. But yeah, it's a collaborative work of like a lot of people, and not just problem writing, organizing the mini events. So like combining everything, I would say like probably maybe up to 30 people, maybe even more.
And about GPA, I think GPA is mostly overrated. So I'm like, this is just like a guess based off of, okay, well, this is just an assumption, but I'm assuming that a lot of the people watching the stream are probably decent at getting good grades. So, and the thing is, you can have like you can spend like 10 hours doing and putting more effort into a class, but you'd only get an A plus as opposed to an A because you usually go from like proficient to exemplary, and that jump takes much more time and effort than all the other jumps. So basically spending more time like focusing on GPA is it gives diminishing returns. Like there's not really that much of a difference between like 3.99 and 4.02 GPA, which a lot of people spend a mass amount of time trying to do. But yeah, I think competition math score probably matters more if you're talking about colleges.
I'd actually sort of argue the opposite. Not as in that it's that the GPA as a number is more important, but I'd definitely say that while you're also really ambitious about competition math, don't forget to, I guess, I think like if you're more inclined to like math or a certain topic, don't forget about the other classes too. Because definitely like if you're thinking about math and you're like, oh, I'm interested in having math maybe as a path in the future, you also do need to develop, for instance, writing skills and all that communication stuff. I guess it's just that while there's like being good at competition math is really important, at the same time it's also really important to sort of have this well-roundedness as well, just so that because I think that a lot of the things that you might be encountering in the future are a combination of all these subjects. They're not really clean cut in the real world.
Yeah, if you don't have good grades, then it's definitely good to spend effort getting to good grades. But if you already have good grades, then it's not as worth it. Well, you won't get the same reciprocal like benefit out of doing the same amount of work.
I guess I'll answer how do you get good at writing problems. I feel like this works for like everything. Just do a lot of it. I know for like whoever like was reading my problems in the forum, my first 10, probably my first 20 problems were all really bad problems. And I don't think any of them made the test, but it's a really valuable practice to just write a lot of problems. And then eventually you start seeing like, what's a good idea? What's a cliched idea? What's sort of like obnoxiously difficult and what's difficult but in an elegant way. And you start to see those subtleties and it becomes easier. But definitely, I don't think, maybe this is just me, but I don't think like getting to a point where every problem you write can and will make a test. Like I like me, I haven't reached that point at least. Like I would still say like, so about half of my problems like miss the mark. Maybe like, yeah, I think maybe we could probably ask someone else about like their own like failure success rates, but like still for me like a good deal of my problems don't make it.
Um, yeah, I think once you like do enough problems yourself, you can write good problems. But like the idea has to like come to you, and the execution has to be clear in order for it to like be, to make the test or for the competitors to enjoy it.
I think
Sorry.
sorry. Wait, I think like to create a good problem, you need to start with like an idea, and then you gotta kind of think about the motivation that you want the competitors to think through, and then you have to like model your problem so that this so like the competitors have like the intuition so that they can see what to do. Um, that that's usually how I think good problems are made.
Oh, also, I think an important part of writing problems and seeing what is good and what doesn't work is also collaboration with other people. For LMT in particular, there's actually a forum where we put in our problem submissions and everyone in our team can look at it. And because anyone's able to post like their solutions or feedback in the problem threads on AOPS, it it gives you kind of a better understanding of what works and what doesn't work. And I think that collaboration is very important in making the overall test work and also each problem individually.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Kaiki on this one. I think definitely a lot of my problems, like people would respond and be like, "Oh, this is cliche," or "You need to make this clarification," and that was really helpful because sometimes, from the view of someone writing the problem, you know everything that's going on in the problem, but part of your job is also transcribing that into your like the actual text, and sometimes like things happen in the middle where like you think that you implied something but you didn't imply it, and then like a lot of times having someone else looking at it and saying you didn't like you didn't finish the problem, it's not strict enough, is really helpful.
Yeah, I would really agree with what Ada just said. It really is a group effort. It really takes like everyone in our kind of team to make this test possible. So you guys should all thank these guys right here and everyone else behind the scenes who have been working to make sure everything was polished with the test and with logistics. Um, and it is getting a bit late, like 7, and then we're gonna have the award ceremony starting soon. So unfortunately, we're gonna kind of be ending this here and closing it here. But thank you guys so much for listening. We hope it was helpful. We hope we gave helpful advice as you guys go into high school or as you guys continue middle school. Best of luck with everything that you guys are doing. We were really, really impressed with how you guys did. Um, so yeah, we will see you in 15 minutes or so if you guys show up to the award ceremony, which will be right back here. All right, we're going to leave now. Bye bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Yeah, and you can wait